Wow.
Welcome, everyone, to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore. And Ron, my husband, of course, is my co-host. And we hope everybody had a great Mother's Day and a wonderful last week, because we didn't, but we're not going to get into that. But
be a whole show.
We would like for everybody to go out there right now and look at the radar for Milton, Florida, and tell us if we're screwed or not. So we know we are. It's too small. It's not there. So, but go look at that out there, and I think that you guys will really enjoy it. Let's see. Let's watch this. Maybe you guys can see it.
There you go.
So, like I said, we're screwed.
Frank saw it. He's like, we're not making it up either.
Yeah, we're not. That's the live radar right now.
That's the show for the night.
There you go.
We're about to get screwed.
But to make this even more fun, we've got a guest tonight. We're going to share with you guys our friend Frank Bennett. He's coming back to visit with us again. We've had him on this show. We've also had him on Paranormal Nation Radio, Not So Normal. We had him on there quite a bit because he's not that normal. Hey there, Joanne. And so we're going to bring up Frank, and we're going to talk about whatever it is he wants to talk about today. So,
hi.
How's your radar looking over there?
Yeah.
It's not like that.
Things are definitely looking up for you guys.
Luckily, it's going northeast.
Hey, Mom.
Yeah. If it was heading maybe to the northwest and northeast, that's called Peyronie's disease.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have to worry about that. It looked pretty solid. So, needless to say, everybody's going to go look at their radar right now for Milton, Florida. So, yeah, luckily we don't have to, we're all just going to have to bend over and take it. So, okay, let's get serious now. Because, in all seriousness, that's what this is about. So, it's been a while since we talked. I shared a bunch of your books. And I saw that you had one I hadn't seen before. And I forgot which one it was. I knew that you had the one about, I'm not looking at anything to tell me this. Let's see. Okay. Which was your book about God? I can't remember it now. My brain is just.
Hey, you want me to just take it for like 60 seconds?
She's worried about a storm moving in.
Yeah, I would worry about that too, definitely. And you shouldn't sit around with your mouth open either. That could be bad for you. My name's Frank J. Bennett. I'm coming to you live from St. Augustine, Florida, where all the fun is. And I am the author of Encounter with the Aberdeen Wildman, A True Story, which is my first book. A Ghost in Philadelphia, Paranormal Science Fiction, which was my second book, and the book that Denise was alluding to, Questions for God, which came out in November of the previous year. I have 3 other books out there, one of which is, of course, called The First Man, which I'm retooling. I'm actually rewriting that book, and as a Bible teacher, it is my presumption as what the life of the first created man, Adam, would have been like. And what's fascinating about the story for me is that Scripture won't provide you a lot of information about Adam. The Scripture never provides you a lot of information about anything. But given the character that I've seen in Scripture, I was able to come up with a story where, what if you were among hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people living in encampments in a certain region of the world? Everybody knew who you were. Everybody remembers you because as long as they've been alive, you've been alive. I mean, he's the oldest living person around, and he has all these stories about the Garden of Eden and creation and all that, but nobody believes him because there's nobody around to verify or validate any of his stories. And then that's how I write out the life of Adam and the trials he goes through. And it's another story where you've got your people who have faith and choose to believe his stories. I actually put him on trial and against those who challenge and question his doctrines and his stories. So that's out there. I'm retooling the book now because I'm redoing the cover because I'm doing a relaunch on it. So that's going to be available in about a month or so. Okay. The next one I've got is Talk Dirty to Me, which I didn't show because I got a copy back there and I didn't pull it out. But that's the dirty little story I wrote with my friend Dawn Wells some years back, which was going to be made into a stage play, but unfortunately Dawn passed away, and well, I'm just left with a story, so I decided to publish it.
And I have that one. I have the Ghost in Philadelphia and the Aberdeen Wildman, which is how I met you to begin with.
I didn't send you one of these.
Nope.
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. That's what
That's
the kids.
okay.
That's
Hold
the kids
on
are saying
to
that,
it.
right? My bad. Okay, good.
Hold on to it till we come and visit.
Okay, well, I'll put on here. Send Denise book. Okay, cool. Okay, way cool. And the next book I'm working on, I got actually 3 of them I'm working on at different times. When you're a writer, you can't just sit down and bang it out like, you know,
Right.
Mishler and people like that, and Grisham and Stephen King. I mean, I'm not like that. A lot of writers start a project and get back to it years later. I've actually got 8 books in the works. One of them I started a decade and a half ago, and I never got to finish it. But the next one I'm really close to getting done. I've been making great strides, and it's called The Spirit Field. And that deals primarily with my concept of how spirits actually exist in the physical world and how they interact with us being living beings.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Yeah, I'd like to. I was moving something, so Ron didn't put his feet on it. Sorry.
Yeah, good luck with that.
I really would like to hear more about that, because I think you have a unique take on the paranormal.
Well, this
That's
book
one
is based. I'm sorry, go ahead, Ron.
You've been working on that book for how long?
About 2 years now.
Oh, okay.
I had my basic framework down about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Because my mind never stops thinking about things. I mean, when something, I'm not leading the most peaceful existence. When something happens to me, there's a part of my mind that doesn't stop thinking about it. And so I got my mind devoted to thousands of little things going on at once. And I decided to refocus on my encounter with the Aberdeen Wildman, who is the central figure of this book, who is a humanoid creature I encountered along the shores of the Chesapeake Bay back in Maryland, where Denise and I grew up at back in 1980, when we were both really young, hip, and happening people. Well, I was. I don't know if Denise was, but we were young, hip, happening people. And
Denise was busy getting in trouble.
Hey, Anthony.
And something.
So are you, but in different
Hey,
places.
when was the last time you were back there? Or have you?
Oh, it's been years.
Can you still get to it? I mean, it's not.
The last time I was actually there was probably back. You're talking about where I encountered the Wildman.
Yeah, it's not part of a military base now or anything, or.
It's sitting directly across the bay, the Great Big Gunpowder Falls estuary, which is about as big as the Mississippi River, is across from the Aberdeen Proving Grounds, which is our
Right.
Which is a number.
Right.
Which is
Right,
yeah.
I know that. I
Yeah.
knew it was really close to that.
And that
I
part of
didn't
the
know if they-
water.
Yeah, the easiest way to get to it is by kayak, which is how I did it, because it's pointless to go trekking when you don't have to. But I kayaked out there back in, I think, 2017, and took some footage for some new video I was going to be using at my live events. It's, you get, and Denise will tell you, that's an area of the country which is horribly prone to flooding. When Hurricane Agnes rolled through there in 1972, it just rewrote all the landscape, all of it. And
I wouldn't have known. I was in New Jersey at that time.
you look, well, good. You're away from it. We were hiding in our basement.
That's a bad place to hide in a flood.
Well, we're about 5 miles from the Gunpowder Falls, so we were more worried about the hurricane force winds than anything else. So we were down in the basement underneath of a mattress when they were blowing through. And when my big brother and I went down to the falls about a day or two later, the water was still about 30 feet high. So you couldn't go down to the river or any of the other estuaries.
This must have been before they opened up the state park there.
It was still a state park before then, but it wasn't like this. Because when Hurricane Agnes rolled through, it just overwhelmed the dam. Pretty Boy Reservoir and all that just overwhelmed it. And it actually added land to the lower part of the river that wasn't there before. And the part where I saw the Wildman, that was carved out. That used to be attached to the mainland. And after Hurricane Agnes, it was kind of carved into its own little island. So the only way to get to it in during low tide would be through just a thin marsh that you can walk through. Now, fortunately, when I saw the Wildman, I was going through in the wintertime and the water tables were low. And so you can walk through the marsh, no problems. And I remember that right before I saw the Wildman, and I had just gotten through, I was standing there on the edge of the marsh. It's the coldest damn day of the year. I think it was single digits. And I'm looking out, beautiful, bright, sunny day. And I'm looking out over the Chesapeake Bay. Out in the distance, you can see the Amtrak going by, which runs up from Baltimore. And I remember I'm standing there watching a flock of birds flying across the water. And they were squawking, and then all of a sudden I couldn't hear them. And I got this just weird tingly feeling. And the marsh grass that was blowing gently past me, which is about 5 feet high at that time of the year, I couldn't hear it. And I just had this real weird feeling that something else was there. And you got to understand, this is in the middle of nothing.
Right.
Just marshlands, okay? And everything was covered with ice. This is not paranormal territory. It's not a haunted house. And then there's this feeling of a presence. And then almost suddenly there was a feeling of something rushing up behind me, which caused me to turn around. And that's when I saw the Wildman figure on this small island that was cut off from the mainland. Now, what I'm focusing on is not so much seeing the Wildman. It was that little space of a few seconds from not being able to see, feel, and hear anything to then turn around and feeling a presence and then seeing the Wildman. That's what this is focusing on, because the figure, if it's paranormal, is 100 feet away from me, way over there. But what's affecting me over here by the water?
My question is did it possess mind control? To make
you bring that up.
Believe that you couldn't hear, make you believe that there was something there. Maybe it was something to do with it was able to project its presence somewhere else to take your attention away too.
Right. And how would it do that? What is it? From my point of view, my point of all this is not so much what it's doing, it's how it's able to do it. I want to know the mechanics, because I love science. God created science, and it's really a shame when you don't use it. And so, let's say a spirit has that ability. Okay, how is it able to do that in my three-dimensional universe? What kind of physics does it need to do or use in order to be able to inflict that on me? That's what the book is about. And if anybody listening has got ideas, I'm listening. But this is what I've been kind of steeped in for, several months now, is studying the sciences and what sciences could apply. And that's why I made a posting on Facebook about a month ago showing concern for people who are ghost hunting, because I also have been researching health-related problems related to people who are involved in the paranormal field. And a lot of folks in our profession are turning up with cancers and tumors and, mutations and burns and things like that. You got to understand something. When your EMF meter spikes, what is it reading? It's reading electromagnetic. It's reading electromagnetic radiation. Yeah. Radiation is not your friend when it moves above a certain level. Then it starts actually burning you. And it doesn't hit you surfacely. It actually, the particles actually shoot through your body in and through your body. So it's burnt. It's actually microwaving you.
Well, and there are microwave waves as well, because we use them through the company that I work for internet, So how much of it is related to the use of microwaves? And in every place that has an overnight that has food has microwaves. Keep that in mind. Plus, they eat a lot of food on the roads getting there, fast food and crap, microwaved. What about RF?
Right, and that's one of the reasons why I made over the years have remarked about how, when I was a contractor in demolition, I would drive through all of these cities. I love to listen to AM radio. I was listening to Coast to Coast AM for about 10 years overnight, because I would have to drive all night long to get to a job site. And there are some towns you could drive through and they're a little staticky. If I was to drive through them today, my radio wouldn't be able to pick up anything because of how saturated it is.
Yeah.
And people are living with that. And it honestly, it's a simple Google search is how people are coming up with more and more tumors and cancers and colorectal cancer and all kinds of things just off the scale.
Well, they got to stop putting their ass on the microwave.
Yeah, right. Or the photocopier.
Yep. Oh, Tom, congratulations on that.
Congrats, Tom.
I want to say hello to Kitty. And
hello, Kitty, Crystal.
And Tom, there are no gators in Maryland. I can guarantee it.
No.
If they did, they would have been frozen out in all the winters where we could walk across the bay. I can guarantee that. So we do have a question for you, though. This is from Tom. He asks, where was the Garden of Eden? Do you know?
Well, I need my eyes.
Where was the Garden of Eden?
Tom, I'm really glad to see you're back up and kicking. We were worried about you for a while. I'm glad you're in better health, brother.
Yeah.
Good to hear from you. I'm sorry, say that again.
Where was the Garden of Eden?
Okay. Now, we discussed this on a previous program. I, as a Bible teacher, can give you an idea where it's at. Problem is that we had something called the Great Flood. And when the Great Flood took place, it basically upended all land masses and just rewrote the landscapes.
Mm-hmm.
So where it tells you that, say, it was between the Euphrates and the Tigris. Well, the Euphrates and the Tigris have been moved quite a bit.
Yeah, they got rerouted from the flooding.
Right, exactly. And it in Scripture, and of course, Genesis chapter 2, it says located in the water founts of Sion, Psion, the fountains of Sion. Those have been moving all over the place for thousands of years. You got to understand that region of the earth is also extremely prone to earthquakes. So if there was anything there before, it ain't there no more.
Yeah.
And it's the phrase shifting sands. All that anybody needs to know, really, is that the lower Euphrates and Tigris seem to have more or less been in the same position for as long as mankind can remember. That's about the best you can say.
Okay.
Because you got to understand something. When the Lord was, and this is what ties into how I'm writing my book about the first man, Adam, is that when he ejected Adam and Eve from the garden and made sure that they'd stay away, Adam and Eve had children in the garden. What happened to them? So I had to create a storyline for what happened to them. Also, that you go back and look at the reasons why God did it. They could become as gods, like us as gods, knowing both good and evil. Now, the word knowing is not the term for understanding. It's the same term for having sex or relations with. So you're not just understanding what it is, you're in the practice thereof. And that's what the Lord was trying to prevent happening. So he had to do away with or find something to do with the children of Adam and Eve in the garden, but also find a way that they can't re-sin or recalibrate the sin. So he would have done away with the trees that he had planted for these things and caused the garden to wither and die. The best way to do that is what we have seen the Lord do all through the Old Testament. Dry up and wither a land away so that the people there can't make a living and have to move.
It's one way to route everybody
Except
to
in
where you want.
Ethiopia.
That's one way to reroute everybody to where you want them to go. Sounds like a government plot.
You see, the Lord doesn't have to. The final creation the Lord made was the woman. That was his final creation. After that, it's just simply a matter of using what's already in place to do your will. That's it. And both he and, as is seen with Satan in the book of Job, chapters 1 and 2, they use what is already available, the natural forces of the world, to affect change and move things the way they want them.
Well, that's it. I mean, there's so many stories that could come from all this.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I can't even fathom how many I could come up with right this minute, because we'd be here all night. But we do have another question for you. And Anthony, I'm going to need you to explain to me if you mean, Anthony asks, do you think way line portals are possible? And I don't know if he means way lines or ley lines. So
I've never heard of a way line.
me either. That's why I'm asking. So Anthony, please, if you can validate ley line or way line, that would be helpful. But in the meantime, do you believe that portals are possible at all?
Well, here's the problem with that, and let's speak physics. In order for you to have a portal is a place from here to there. You have to define what's here and what's there. Now, obviously, what's here is, of course, the living world, the surface of the earth, the living world, and everything on it. You haven't determined the destination. So in order to have the portal, you have to have both. And this is the problem I run into with people when they try to argue with me about alternative dimensions. You have to establish the existence of the dimension before we can speak about means to and from, which would be a portal. Mm-hmm. And this is what gets everybody mad at me. Nope, it's not possible to prove the existence of an alternative dimension. It still exists on paper. I'm sorry?
I said at least not yet.
Not yet. And as soon as they do, I'm going to be all lamped up, because it's just another dimension of physics I get to speak about, because it would help a lot of things we've been talking about for a long time fall into place. Mm-hmm. You see, we have a lot of X factors going on here. You have X times the Sasquatch, X times the UFO, and stuff like that. And you keep wanting to find out what X is, because that'll help you figure out everything else.
Hey there, Dan.
Hey, Dan.
Dan, he's our man.
Yeah, he's another Baltimore.
Yeah,
another Marylander.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He likes it there, so that's good. So hopefully we'll get to see him in July when we go up to Gettysburg.
Y'all doing that, huh? Okay.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? I don't get along with the Gettysburg Bash, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get along with the promoters up there. They don't like me, which is cool. They have nothing I want. But a lot of they do attract some of the best people in the business. My friend Dave Spinks will do that show from time to time, and he's A1 quality up and down.
Oh yeah, and he's not that far from there.
No.
So he's maybe 3
Unlike
hours?
Us,
yeah,
14 hours.
My friend, Maggie and Russell live in Erie, Pennsylvania. It's not too big of a trip.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
Yeah. And Kat Snyder Gash is here in the chat room. She's also from Maryland.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So we're having hometown night.
Send it out to everybody in Maryland.
But yeah, we're going up there. Kat, we're going to the Gettysburg Bash, so you're going to have to show up. We're planning on it. We're hoping that we can.
Nothing we've planned is when it's planned, but
just to show you how I get along with everybody. Like I said, I don't get along with the promotion at all, and they hate my guts. But when is the Gettysburg Bash this year?
The last weekend in July.
Okay, I can't make it anyways. I'll be in Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, you'll be just on the road.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna do
Well,
that.
yeah, I was going to say, as everything we've planned hasn't went as planned, so let's take that for what it's worth.
Only these last couple weeks. So, but yeah, we've got.
Yeah, but you can understand, and this is not a dig at any, like I said in the last program, the paranormal is kind of on downswing. We basically, all of those programs we love to watch have shot their wads, and they've kind of run out of gas, and they got cut from regular programming on TV. And there's not a lot. Down to one. Yeah. And a lot of, this is what I've noticed, a lot of events I used to do have gone from 2-day events to 1-day events.
Yep.
And I think they've mixed a lot of Comic-Con stuff with paranormal.
Yeah, a lot of Comic-Cons have disappeared. Yeah. And I'd rather do a Comic-Con than a Paracon, because I run into a greater cross-section of people at a Comic-Con.
Yeah, one of the ones we went to last year and the year before that were Para-Comic-Cons. So they kind of mixed both things together, and one was in Pensacola. We met a lot of people there, including what was it? Gutter guy, some guy selling gutters. Met him. met some interesting people there. We went to the Ozark one in Ozark, Alabama, Deep South Paranormal Para-Comic-Con. That one was pretty good.
Yeah, the Comic-Con stuff I knew nothing about.
Yeah.
I didn't have a clue.
Yeah, no clue. So
a lot of people who I tend to, I'm not going to say friends with, but I see them a lot of these programs, and they tend to. You're not going to see Lou Ferrigno at a Paracon.
No.
You're lucky you see him at all, quite honestly. But Comic-Cons are good for him, and they pay him good, and he can do that for a long time. I tend to run into more receptive audiences at the Comic-Cons.
Yeah.
See, because strangely enough, a lot of the paranormal people have been showing up at the Comic-Cons.
Yeah. Kat shares that she thinks that the paranormal field has deteriorated due to some really bad press, and when it comes to the exploration of certain locations.
Yep.
Yeah, they've run it to death.
Yeah, they did.
They've tried to turn them into. When you come down here to St. Augustine, gorgeous place. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. You should see it at least once in your life. It's the oldest city in this country.
Yeah.
And you come down here, you're going to find out that 75% of everything down here is geared towards ghost hunts.
Oh, it's like Gettysburg. The thing is you may be the oldest city, but we're the oldest settlement.
Who's the oldest settlement?
Pensacola.
Pensacola? I did
not know that. 5 years older.
Now I'm going to have to look that up. Dang it.
Yes, you'll have to look that up.
I'm going to probably have to take down my St. Augustine flag and put up a Pensacola flag.
No, because really, when it comes right down to it, that it is the oldest city.
Yeah, it is.
We are the oldest settlement.
Yep.
But, she was right. No matter how you like to slice and dice it, this is about money. And when I speak to groups, the best thing about speaking is everybody is there for the same reason. It isn't like they wandered in from the corridor and went, "What's this about?"
Right.
Oh, cool. It's spooky.
Right.
No, they're all there for the same reason. So when I tell them what happened to their favorite paranormal programs, I make it clear to them that this business is about money. And if you're not getting people through the door, you're not going to be able to buy, rent the hall for the next year. Or buy insurance to have that event. And, these programs you see on TV, if they don't make a certain level of ratings over a certain period, they're just not going to put money into it anymore.
That's true.
The advertisers aren't going to buy it. So that's why a lot of your favorite shows just dropped off the map.
And not to mention the fact that if you're DVRing it, if you don't watch it within 3 days, they don't get credit for you watching it.
No.
Did you know that? If it wasn't for my friend over at Reels telling me, he told me that. He said, if you don't watch those within 3 days, they're not counted against the ratings.
Mm-hmm.
So that really sucks for people.
Yeah, if you're out of town.
Yeah, if you're out of town and you can't watch it. But of course, me not watching it for one week isn't going to kill it. but
No,
it's
there's
important to know.
yeah, that's why they have something called Sweeps Week, which,
Oh, yeah.
by the way, there's no such thing. They actually do sweeps constantly.
Oh, I know.
That's why they had mid-season replacements in January and February. But they're constantly searching to see when they're losing money. The second they lose money, they alarms go off.
Mm-hmm.
See, and the only shows that are really making much money anymore are the documentary-based ones. Maybe.
Yeah.
What's that show? The new people that are looking for Bigfoot. I forgot its name.
Big Expedition Bigfoot.
Yeah. Because, and I know they're different from Finding Bigfoot because no one on that show has yet mentioned looking to find a buffet any place. So I know they're different from Finding Bigfoot.
And they don't. I mean, the one guy does carry a gun, but not a rifle to shoot Bigfoot with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we may be having RPG on our show. He was the very first show. He got sick.
You talking about the ones that go hunting them?
No.
Oh, I was gonna say that show's been done.
Yeah, that show's
long
done.
Time ago.
From Expedition Bigfoot. He was on the first
The
two
idiots, they all
shows and got sick and had to leave the show. But he hunts Bigfoot here in Florida.
Yeah.
So
I feel bad for a lot of these folks. A lot of them are friends of mine, and I see them from time to time at live events. And a crud load of names, but it's not going to help anybody. But it's kind of sad to see them going from having their own show to being a guest investigator on somebody else's show, down to just live events, down to book signings, and and then ending up with shows I do. Yeah. But if I thought I had a show that would sell, I'd probably try it, but I couldn't come up with one because mine's Bible based. You see, I go through scripture and I see what you all see out there in the paranormal field, but I see it in scripture. It's not translatable to a ghost hunting audience.
No, but maybe it is transferable to Merritt Street.
To what?
Merritt Street Media.
Oh, Merritt Street.
It's owned by Dr. Phil.
Yeah. Now here's where the problem lies: is that y'all know I'm a former actor, not that good of one, or you would have seen one of my movies. But seeing how the sausage is made, another reason why a lot of your paranormal programs dropped off the map is because people are not stupid. I mean, you can't have 52 episodes a year of going into various haunted buildings and getting the same kind of evidence, having the same kind of reactions to it, and expecting the audience to breathlessly hang on.
Yeah,
eventually,
that's why they knocked it down to 18 and said,
right,
whatever we get, and we'll put it on the air.
Yeah, you got to they start ginning it up a little bit. Like the guys on Ghost Adventures, they're characters. Okay, they've actually figured out something smart to do. They became characters. Mm-hmm. And now you're tuning in as much to see what's going on with the characters as you are with the investigations, because everybody's kind of basically smelling that that's a little over the top. There's only so many ways you could be possessed by a demon, Zach.
Right.
Yeah.
There's only so many demons out there, and they seem to find them all.
Yeah.
and
then some.
And Crystal says her dog loves Ghost Adventures, which
understand something about TV. TV is about entertainment.
It has become a soap opera.
Yeah, do you remember the show?
The other Bigfoot, that one.
The Ames team. They're funny as hell, and they were on what was it called again? Mountain Monsters.
Yeah,
I miss those guys.
It was a funny show.
It was so.
But it started getting
so
ridiculous.
Scripted that there was a rogue team that was tearing up their stuff, and they were getting kidnapped and all this other crap.
Getting their Bigfoots before they got to it.
And their Bigfoot was always escaping from the traps, and they would spend half the show building a damn trap that one of those guys would get caught in.
I did a show in Johnstown this past fall, and Willie was there. Willie's the guy who built the trap. Yeah,
Willie's awesome. I like him. I think they're great people, but the show was written like crap. But we couldn't stop watching it. It was like a bad train wreck.
Yeah. He said he tells this story where he built this one trap, and oh my gosh, his name went right out of my head. The crap. They're all ex-Marines. I can't say that. The bald guy who keeps talking funny. Man, like I have his signed autograph back there.
Oh yeah.
Was it
But
Jeff?
he actually got stuck in caught in one of Willie's traps.
Yeah.
It was probably.
Yeah, I know who you're talking
It's
about.
either Jeffro or the other one.
No, the older, skinnier guy.
Oh, I forgot his name.
Oh,
I know who you're talking about.
yeah.
He has a beard.
No. Not Jeff. Not Jeff. He's
the one that always helps
hair.
Willie build the traps.
Yeah, Willie builds the traps, and
The one that
Wild
always
Bill.
Yeah, Wild Bill.
Wild Bill. And Bill up and got stuck in one of Willie's traps. They went looking for him and found him in Willie's trap.
It was the thing is that wasn't the first time, most likely, or the last. But Kat also had something else to add. So she says the spirit world is not a monetary commodity, but some believe it is. Those of us who only want to learn more about who may be haunting a location don't give a rat's ass who has investigated there on those shows. So
no, they don't. A rat's hooty hoot, do they?
No,
we could care less either.
And Crystal also says that her dog recognizes Zach's voice.
And like I said, a character.
So, and we have another question from Anthony Lewis. He wants to know, do you think it's possible for a person to get time sickness? Do you believe people can travel in time?
No, they cannot bodily travel in time. That's physically impossible. But personally, they can. And this is why I wrote, that was one of the foundations for me writing my second book, A Ghost in Philadelphia. And it's paranormal science fiction, and it's set in the near future, and they invented technology where they can actually take energy and project it into the past. They can pierce the time barrier, but not physically. They can do it with non-physical things such as light, heat, sound. But they also discovered that the human spirit is a form of energy. Now, this, of course, ties in with what you've seen proven scientifically, like the CERN Super Collider, which I feature in the book, where they can actually use alternative gravimetric forces to move protons through a centrifuge at such a high rate of speed it approaches the speed of light. So if the human spirit is a form of energy, they should be able to do the same thing with the human spirit, thus projected back in time. And that's the basis for the book. That's how he travels back in time. He doesn't appear in Philadelphia. His spirit does. And as we have all learned encountering full-bodied apparitions, you can't tell the difference between a full-bodied apparition and a spirit unless you were to touch it. And then even after that, not so much so. But he appears in June of 1776 Philadelphia as a full-bodied apparition. And as a Bible teacher, I get to tell the reader what it's like to be a spirit among the living and everything that comes with it. And so, yeah, I do believe that the spirit can transcend time or be made to transcend time. I do believe that, and this ties into what I'm writing with the spirit field, the spirits have this way of, certain spirits have a way of manipulating the natural forces that we exist in, especially gravimetric forces, whereas you could be made to feel like you are moving one way or the other. This could also explain something I referred to in the first book as transvection, how a living being is transported by a spirit from one place to another in an incredible amount of time. Jesus was transvected in the book of Luke chapter 10 when he was tested in the wilderness by Satan. Jesus was the living being. Satan, the spirit, transvected Jesus to another location. How is that physically possible? The manipulation of gravimetric forces could explain that.
That's going to take some thinking.
Yeah, thank you. Anyway, this is why I when I'm talking to my wife, she's sitting there going, yeah, right, okay, sure. What else?
No, I mean, the way I see it is, it is going to take a little bit of thought to think that all the way through.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying.
You see, I examine thousands of paranormal encounters, and I'm listening for key things.
And as Joanne says, that makes her head hurt. So
Yeah. Okay, so what you got to remember also in the book of Luke chapter 11, Jesus makes it kind of clear that there are different kinds of spirits. They're not all the same. Okay?
Yep.
And never once is the word demon used in scripture. Thank you very much. But there are spirits so powerful, they may be able to manipulate. We already know from scripture they can manipulate the natural forces of the world. In the book of Job, chapter 2, Satan uses a whirlwind to destroy all of Job's holdings. He can actually create a storm. Now, if a spirit's able to move forces that strong to destroy, why could it also not move gravitational forces?
should be able to. If it can create a storm, it should be able to change more than just that.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you got to understand, 90% of what we think of as paranormal is only because of, we were created with a spirit. Because we have spirit, the spirits can directly connect to us. So their work is not really hard in terms of giving us thoughts and visions and, feelings and things like that. It's easy for them to connect with our own spirit. That's the easy part. The external manifestations of things such as stigmata, or levitation and things like that requires a spirit capable of moving the natural forces about you, being able to manipulate light, heat, sound, gravity. Now this is where we get into the spirit field. What if it's not just manipulating the forces around you? What if it's doing it within its own created field, a field that it made for itself around you? Like when you were telling me the story of being in that one room with a room full of people, and you saw this one girl, I think it was, across the room, and you were the only person who saw it. I remember that story from a couple years back.
Mm-hmm.
You were the only person who saw this. You were the only one who saw this person.
Yeah.
Within the field you were in, that spirit could manipulate you and cause you to believe you're seeing it, even though nobody else came in had contact with it. Within that field that it makes around you, you see what it wants you to see, and you hear what it wants you to hear and feel. And that's the basis for the book Spirit Field, based upon what I felt I encountered out in the Chesapeake Bay, out in the marshes. Because think about it, I'm looking at this Wildman character way over there, about 100 feet away, but what's affecting me over here?
Mm-hmm.
You see?
Kind of like you're inside of a cell.
Right.
You're the nucleus.
Right.
You're watching what's on the edge of it.
You're in the fishbowl.
That's weird. You're thinking about what's happening to you right there, where, logically you would think, anybody else, they're looking across going, what the hell am I seeing over there?
Right. And one, I'm not sure if one was meant to detract or distract from the other, but it's not something I really started giving any thought to until recently. I had assumed up till then that weird creature 100 feet away from me was the cause of it. It may not have been. And as I'm very fond of saying, spirits are like cockroaches. If you see one, there are thousands.
It is also quite possible that whatever you were seeing, knowing that they did a lot of that mind control stuff there in Aberdeen.
I had to examine that. She's talking about the Aberdeen Proving Grounds back in the day was part of Project Paperclip, which is technology we stole from the Nazis at the end of World War II. And they did experiment on soldiers at the Aberdeen Proving Grounds and other military bases around the country. So I had to look into that, and I had to kind of, follow that lead as far as it'll go. But there's no I've never heard of another technology like it anywhere else. And why would it be aimed at just one person? Why would I not hear about it happening to other people?
Maybe other people don't know. Maybe the other people's minds are so weak that they didn't grasp what was going on. Yeah.
Now, what else I had to take in consideration was the Aberdeen Wildman creature itself, because remember, the only reason why I've got a name for it is because a friend of mine that's a sergeant at the Aberdeen Proving Grounds told me that they had sighted this creature there too. So that apparently was a field of operation. That area of the marshes was a field of operation.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, has anybody else seen it?
I had, when I was doing a show, believe it or not, I was in Burbank, California at a show, and I ran into a couple people who heard about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, heard about it, didn't actually see it. And that's on the other side of the country, believe it or not. And when I was doing a show in San Francisco, somebody who was listening to me came up and told me they heard about this. And I said, "Oh, you heard me on other programs, maybe Denise's program." I said, No. I used to live up in Pennsylvania, and I heard about this.
Huh.
Yeah.
It just makes me wonder. Well, we all know.
Got a comment from Ozzy Osbourne. He said it was swamp gas or ball lightning.
Ball lightning, yeah. Oh, by the way, no. Let me.
Ball lightning.
I've got to get this out real quick. When we went to the Alamo, we took the Ozzy tour.
Oh.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we went up and I went up and asked one of the security guys.
Yeah.
Where do we see the legendary Ozzy location?
Yeah.
Yes, I was wringing my hands just like I am now. And he said, he smiled, he says, okay. All right. It's not what you think it is. He leaned me out the door. He said, okay, you see over there where that monument is? There's a big cenotaph monument to the defenders, Alamo defenders out in the
right.
street. There was a tree there, and he peed on that tree out by the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I heard that he
said he doesn't remember.
Yeah, he doesn't remember, and he thought he was banned from there, and they, reinstated him, of course, and said, "No, we're all good." And so that made me laugh because I remember that one. But on the Aberdeen Wildman, we're gonna go back to that real quick. A lot around Aberdeen Proving Grounds on the water is no man's land or a no-go zone. You're not going in there.
Right.
Whether you're on boat, you're not flying over by air. Unless you are part of, the approved people to go there, you're not going there. It's like Area 51 in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
They're still doing stuff from what I understand.
Mm-hmm. It is our
in
nation.
In the sub basement of whatever. And it just makes you wonder what else is going on. Has there been something different? Has the Aberdeen Wildman had babies?
Yeah.
Bigfoot has. So why has, maybe the Aberdeen Proving Man had found a mate. Just saying, we got to go there.
Some hot women in Baltimore.
Yeah, I was about to say he's in Baltimore. He's bound to find a girl who will do something with him. Probably from Dundalk.
Dundalk. Hey, I used to live there too. He's having a hard time with no bridge. Can't go across.
Oh, shoot. Anyway,
can't go to Glen Burnie anymore. He has to take the long way.
I've been listening carefully because I follow the chats. There are slews of chat boards in Maryland, and I'm not finding anybody talking about anything remotely like it out there.
Are they talking about anything that's related to possible crypto?
UFOs, just UFOs, the occasional maybe Sasquatch sighting, maybe not.
Most likely not.
Yeah. Other than that, very little of anything.
So where are they saying they're seeing these UFOs out there?
Usually in the lower Potomac.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the lower Chesapeake near the Potomac.
Okay.
Yeah, but
so closer to Virginia.
Now, there's another big story going out there about the UAPs and bull crap like that. I would like to point out, especially along the southern border, y'all got to take a step back and remember we don't have a clue what the Chinese have. And the Chinese, for about the last few years, have been funneling supplies and gear to the gangs down in Mexico, who have been operating along the border, who use drones to scope out everything. And so they could be responsible for a lot of these UAPs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And drone
Well-
technology just keeps getting better.
That is very possible. You know, who knows? When you said UFOs, it made me think of stuff that I've seen over Chase, Maryland. You know, some weird stuff. And Anthony Lewis said, like, a study of swamp gases. You know, that maybe the Aberdeen Wildman you were high on swamp gas, or maybe the UFOs that I think I saw were swamp gas, but they were up kind of high.
Okay, now who said that?
Anthony.
Anthony, love you. Nothing but love. I spent more than 15 years in demolition, and I'm also a licensed asbestos removal supervisor. If there's a gas out there I haven't inhaled yet, I'd like to meet it. Quite honestly, I've never, outside of a couple of them that kind of made me black out for a second, I'm not familiar with a gas that powerful to make me do that.
Well, and when you saw the Aberdeen Wildman, everything was frozen.
Yeah.
So there would be no gas.
Yeah.
Well, it would have to be a gas that would still be operable in 2-degree weather. That's tough.
Right.
And if it is, it would probably be visible.
Yeah.
Yep.
You would at least have had some kind of fog or something else, and you didn't. So
yeah, I'm not as good on the chemistry as I am with the other sciences, but yeah, it would have to be in that temperature and environment. Yeah, it would have to be pretty noticeable.
Yeah.
Or
it wouldn't be a gas anymore. It would be a solid, and it would be under the ice.
Well, that depends. There's a lot of chemicals that only begin to freeze when you get to -10 degrees. Petroleum products will start to freeze at -10 degrees. And if it's a petroleum-based product, it very likely wouldn't have been able to gas up.
Right. But the thing is you're saying that you were walking on frozen swamp. It was frozen. It was solid. There was no, you didn't step through. You didn't walk out wet.
Yeah.
So it was solid. We have Kat. She has a question for the guest. How do you explain a spirit transporting you to a time in which they experienced an event? I have done such at Antietam.
Well, that experience is very common. I'm not trying to belittle it, but it's made to look like something else that happens quite commonly. How do psychic mediums communicate with the dead? Because they are psychically connected. And like I said, this is only possible because you have a spirit. And if you have a spirit can connect with you. And a lot of times you don't even know it's happening. A lot of people sitting there listening to this right now actually are suffering spirit possession and don't even realize it because the spirit that's with them is choosing to be covert. It'll appear at a time of its choosing. But they're always connected with you. And because they're connected with you, they're giving you these visions and intimations. More than often, it happens in your sleep or shortly before you wake in the morning. That's the time when the brain activity starts going from deep REM to conscious. That little gray area, that's the gray zone right there.
Yeah, that's the part you'll remember.
Right. It's also because it's when you begin to start having a sensation of perception. And you could start to probably start feeling or thinking at that stage. And that's how I explain that. You weren't actually there, obviously, but you feel like you had been because that spirit who did this with you was probably with somebody who lived 500, 600, 700 years ago, went through their entire lives with them, probably has a lifetime of experiences in them. And they're looking for somebody like you to present them to or give them to. They can't sit there and tell you these things. So instead of that, they make you experience them. They make you live as somebody else had lived 500, 600 years before.
And she says, I didn't even know who this spirit was until a few years later when another medium told me who they may be.
maybe. Remember, the spirits don't like to let you know who they are, because there are methods of casting out spirits. So they will use pseudonyms in any way, shape, or form they can.
So, okay, I have another question for you from Anthony Lewis again. And he says, do you think that echo in time is possible? A person sees an echo murder, or every year around the same time a car crash happens in the same spot?
Okay, you mean, is this like a residual haunt, as he talking?
Yeah,
That's
well,
what it
that's what we
sounds
call
like.
residual, but yeah.
And that goes back to what I was just saying before. That particular spirit, it's not. There's no way physics can explain that. By the way, it's something existing outside of physics. And again, if you didn't have a spirit, this could not be experienced. Okay, a spirit who actually has a specific set of memories, because it existed at a time where it could witness something or be with somebody to witness something, is actually choosing you to give these memories to, and you're experiencing them as if you lived them yourself. Just as a psychic medium would speak to spirits or receive messages from spirits. There's that connection again. Only this time they're just electing to present it to you and for you to have it.
And we have one more question so far.
Okay.
And this is another one from Anthony. And he says, then where does your thought of free will come in?
Adam had free will when he was created. And even though the Lord looked right at him and said, "You see that tree over there? Don't even think about it." He was tricked and deceived by somebody he trusted into breaking his promise with God, his agreement with the Lord. You say, mankind has always had free will. You can either choose damnation or choose salvation. It's always been up to you. It always will be up to you. You see, if God was somebody who created you to just do only what he wants, it would be like you having a pet, and the only thing the pet did were the tricks you taught it. Do you really have a pet, or do you have a Game Boy? You look through Scripture, you're not going to find any situation where the idea of the Lord not allowing someone to make choices is an issue. In almost every situation, because they've made a choice, is the issue. Samuel chose to go see the witch in Endor to consult with the spirit of Saul. He knew not to do that. He knew not to go consult witches, but he chose to go do that. And for that, going back to the Lord allowing, just natural devices to take place to affect change, allowed him to be defeated in battle for having done that. And when the witch of Endor brings up Saul, Saul's actually a little ticked off. Why did you bring me up? I'm down there in paradise, man. I'd like to stay down there a while if I can. Thank you. But that was free will right there.
Mm-hmm.
Kat finishes up her comments with, that was a really scary residual haunting. It can be really interesting, but disconcerting when you can't interact with it.
You're not supposed to. But you know what I would do in your shoes? I would write about it. You see, you were given these. Yeah, you were given these for a reason, and do something with it. Share it with the world. Write about it, and show them, hey, the Spirit gave me this. I want to share it with you. Does this make any sense to you? Tell me what you think of this.
There you go, Kat.
By the way, there are folks I've met with multiple instances like this. I told them, you got enough here to make a book out of. Why don't you do that?
Kat already has one. She's working on her second, if not her third. So when we went to Gettysburg the last time, she met up with us at our hotel, and we had a great visit, and hung out for a little while, and it made the whole trip worth it just to meet up with her. So Huh? Don't want to talk to them?
No, that's my alarm for me to take my medication.
Oh, do you
Because
need
if I
it?
don't
Do you
take it,
need
I
to
get
go
all
do it?
nuts.
Oh, you got happy hands? Happy hands?
Yeah, I got jazz hands.
Yeah. So, we also have another guest or another listener, Mr. Duffy81. He said, in relationship to the echo you were talking about, he says on every other day we have the same guest going into the next Bigfoot podcast, giving the same exact show. It's like an echo. So good one, Mr. Duffy. So got it.
I don't think he was trying to be funny. But,
No, I think that
Yeah.
he's just stating a fact that there are some guests that you have
oh
on.
yeah,
I've had a
we've
couple of those
Yeah.
guests that as soon as we got them started, I could walk away and the show would go on.
Oh,
So-
that's a joke I would always make with, you remember Wes Forsythe,
Mhm.
Scarefest?
Mm-hmm.
When I was on his show, I would always make that joke that, he just let me go on, and I didn't hear anything out of him for a while, and I just started making jokes. He probably went and got in his car, went down to 7-Eleven and got a churro.
Kat just shared with Mr. Duffy that it was the stone tape show. Everybody talks about the stone tape theory. There you go. Put it out there for perpetuity. The same show. You never have to do it again. You just do it once and we'll just play it over and over again. How come this guy never ages? Oh, that's because
it looks great after 20 years.
Okay, hey, can I tell you something funny on that subject? Got to do it. My wife's dad, who's no longer with us, he was a good guy. Not the best guy, but a good guy. He's from another generation, World War II generation.
Mm-hmm.
You ever on Ghost Hunters, when they would have that final sit down with the client,
Yeah.
they went from people having problems to being clients.
Right.
With the client, they would have the laptop set up and the speakers and everything. They'd be talking and all that stuff. And when they're done, thank you very much. You've shown us a lot. Great. And they'd get up and leave the table. And he'd get up on the edge of just my wife's dad would get on the edge of the seat and go, all right, so they're just going to leave that stuff there?
what, the ghosts or the,
No,
or
the
the laptop?
Ghost Hunters guys are just going to leave that equipment sitting there?
Yeah, laptop and everything. Here you go. You can listen and watch all you want.
Well, Ghost Adventures is known to leave behind tents and all kinds of other stuff
Yeah.
because they don't want to take it on the plane.
Now they don't fly anymore.
Yeah, now they don't fly anymore, so it doesn't. At least Zach doesn't. Everybody else might, but he won't. So that's a whole other story.
To my understanding, his museum in Vegas is not doing that good.
Should it?
It's
It
$75 a head. I don't think so.
Considering where it is, it should be a pilgrimage site for people in the paranormal, but it really hadn't quite turned out that way.
Like I said, $75 a head.
You wouldn't walk in there for $3.
A $5 discount.
I'm sorry.
If you're a veteran.
There's nothing in there I need to see except
My bear.
for bear that he stole.
Well, when it goes under, it's going to be one hell of a yard sale.
Yeah.
I'll have to send our daughter over.
A yard sale in Vegas, no less.
Yeah. Well, Lacey doesn't live that far from there. Maybe 3 miles.
Yeah.
So
Pretty close.
Oh, Kat says, nah, that's what they have the minions for, to get all the equipment. They're too big for that stuff. Now, of course, I have nothing.
They are the minions now.
Yeah, they are the minions now, but that's a whole different ball game. So when it comes,
kiss the ring of Zach, right out there.
Well, maybe they need to take in our storm today.
Now, I don't know what kind of contract those guys, they've all got separate contracts. Okay. And I don't know what their contracts are. Obviously, Zach gets the lion's share of everything. But they got to be doing fairly decent contractually because they're approved for a few new episodes. And as you notice, season by season, it's only been about between 5 and 10 episodes.
Yeah, because
Which
now
contract are you talking about?
they do. I mean, they do 2 seasons
The
a
deal
year
with the
now.
devil or
With the network.
for the network?
Either way, that's
Yeah.
the same. It's the same dude.
Yeah.
Same dude. But they have to be making good money if Aaron's wife thinks that he's making enough money for her to pay somebody to knock him off.
That poor guy.
I know, and he's one of the nicer ones on the show.
I don't know who to feel more sorry for, Aaron Goodwin or Bill Belichick. I don't know who to feel worse for. But,
I know.
All I know
I'd
is
say Bill is in. I have to say he's in hog heaven. Chapel Hill means something totally different to him than it does to everybody else.
I want to go back to college.
He's 23. He's 70s plus.
Yeah.
He's sowing those oats that he never sowed before.
You go, Bill. He's
doing he's doing the Hugh Hefner that you guys all wanted to do but couldn't.
Well, there are things I could say about that, but I better not. I'm going to shut up.
Yeah, you're married. Your wife will kill you.
Because, if we get into the story of taunted relationships, I'm not going to come out of this looking good.
No. None of us will. But it's okay to talk about Bill. Bill can have what Bill gets.
Yeah, see, you got a lot of people on here. They don't follow sports.
Oh, Julie, Bill Belichick. He is now the head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels.
And a lot of people are glad about that.
Especially that 23-year-old girlfriend of his.
We think the paranormal is a fickle, funky business. Try having to answer to sports fans.
Oh yeah.
Nobody. I watch that stuff sometimes.
You wonder why Bill Belichick looks like he's always on the verge of just letting you have it all the time. It's because he has to answer questions.
Yeah, he went to college. He's being schooled right now.
Yeah.
He's learning stuff he never learned before. Or teaching stuff that he never thought he'd teach.
Yeah.
I don't recall getting one dumb question in all the years I've been doing live events. I don't recall speaking at live events and getting one question that was not answerable. That's sit there and watch a sports news conference once, and you'll see the difference.
That's all you'll get.
I remember
These idiots ask questions. You think, did they even watch the game?
Yeah.
I mean, they had their narrative already before they even played.
They had their questions, and they were going, I'm asking these no matter
just like the real media.
Yeah.
So here's one of the things. Remember way back in the 80s when that had to be 90s. In the 90s, ESPN came out with a commercial, and you got Chris Berman standing up at the podium, and he goes, there are no stupid people, or there are no stupid questions, just stupid people with questions. And I love that line. I think that it's great.
I heard that in college.
I have a great idea for a show. Have a post game after every football or baseball game, don't matter. Have a post game show where the fans, who are by then just shot drunk from sitting there watching, the whole game and just drinking the whole time, getting mad. Have a newscast with the fans, with the drunk fans after a game. Everybody would tune in to watch that.
Yeah. I mean, the bad part is I used
especially
to
a losing team.
Yeah, I used to tell everybody.
We need to fire that coach. Coach, we got a question for you.
After
Why aren't you fired yet?
Yeah.
The Cowboys would have a new coach every week.
Oh man.
But in Kansas City, after every Chiefs losing game, you could always watch the ticker for the police department.
Oh yeah.
You would notice there were more beating, more people got beat up.
You heard a lot of sirens after a losing game.
And we didn't live that far from the stadium. So, you could hear a lot from the stadium when we lived in Kansas City, Missouri. So you would hear more sirens when they lost.
Yep.
So more people were getting beat up. There was more drunk people getting pulled over, more domestic violence. And it's a fact that when your home team loses, there are more incidents in your town than there is when your home team wins.
That's must-see TV right there.
So I don't know. It's an interesting thought.
And remember what I always say, people, the ghosts of tomorrow are being made today. So tune in.
Yep. Well, as some people say, they were all people once.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
That's true.
Going back because you set me to a thinking. Y'all going to Gettysburg. One of the things that came to mind when I was thinking about it, and Pat's question there, was there's a real famous YouTube clip going around of ghost troops moving through the woods in Gettysburg on the battlefield. Yeah. And I said on a previous show that, and this is how I went to explain residual haunts, is that it's not an episode that replays over and over again in time. I know exactly where that footage was filmed from because I remember standing there, and it's an outcrop of rocks that it was a command position during the campaign. And that would have been the vantage point of one of the commanding generals as they were observing troops moving through the woods. And so my supposition from that is that image that you're seeing is being produced by a spirit who is with one of those generals witnessing those troops moving through those trees at that time. And that spirit is there feeding this image or causing this image to be seen again.
You talking about the Kling brothers clip?
No, not Klug. Klug brothers.
The
Kling
brothers.
Yeah, Brad and Barry Kling.
Yeah, when they were what, 12?
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Yeah, they were in we met them a long time ago.
Is that the clip you're talking about?
No.
Other ones out there?
Well, this is a YouTube clip that's been around for quite a while.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Oh, that's a really good one.
Yeah, we've seen that one.
Yeah.
Many times.
The only way that's possible if it is a spirit that's there with the people who are doing the filming in that field that it had created, giving them this image for
they were in a car.
Yeah, they were in a car.
And they stopped the car and got out
with
their camera.
Just shooting just the pasture, the countryside.
I remember standing at that spot, and that's an outcrop of rocks that was used as a command position.
Right.
And that's what you would have seen then, that exact same vantage point, if you had been standing there at that time. And that memory is being carried by spirits to be given to, perhaps future generations. It's an opportunity because you're actually witnessing history as it happened. And you're actually witnessing the people who lived it. So it's, for me, another thing I really love is history. And you're actually, when you're seeing these apparitions, you're actually getting to see history, not just a rendition of it. Somebody's memory of what they witnessed. That's precious. That's priceless.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how they got started.
Yeah, when they were kids.
Yeah.
Just a family vacation. So
if people are receiving these kinds of images or these kinds of memories, it'd be probably important to write them down.
At least they got theirs on YouTube, and I don't know if Brad and Barry ever wrote any books. I'd have to look and see. I think I have. I have something.
Did a lot of shows.
Yeah, they did do a lot of shows. Well, not as many as I'd hoped.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
as we all know, and the big question goes around: why don't we ever see you on a paranormal show? I don't ghost hunt.
Well,
you don't ghost. You're not going to be in the ghost hunting show.
What people don't get about me is I don't care if you've ever been on TV. It has nothing to do with your experiences and what you have to share about the paranormal. Everybody has had some experience with the paranormal. They just may not have realized it. They may have run into a spirit and don't even know it because they look as solid as me and you.
That's exactly right. Which has happened to me, you, and my wife, and a slew of other people. This is why in your scriptures, for all of you who are still haven't dozed off yet, it says quite clearly that you should be kind to those you entertain, for many of you have entertained angels unawares, because angels move through our society. for one purpose or another. But they're as real as you and I, only they're not actually living things, which, by the way, is the basis and foundation for this book. Things that move through our society that appear to be living things, even appear to be human, but they're not living things. However, they have physicality and they can affect the natural world around them. And when I examine the sciences, I want to know how that's physically possible. How something that's not living comes into our 3D universe, manifests as a solid, and affects the physical world around us. That's the question I want answered, and that's what I'm working on.
I don't know if you're going to get an answer in this lifetime.
If I do, it's a big egg to crack.
It'll be interesting, though. I mean, when I think about a lot of the stuff that you have shared with me over the years, every time we talk, I think about something different. I mean, we could have the same conversation next week and I'll have totally different questions than I do today.
We have a lot of questions.
Being on your shows, man. Y'all keep me on my shows, man.
The good news is you're coming back on June 2nd.
That's right.
Yeah, he's already
supposed to go. I am.
Really? That soon? So soon? Yes, so soon. So what's going on in Frank's world? I know that you've got an event coming up.
Yeah, I'm here this week because in a few days I leave for Philadelphia to go to Fan Expo, which is probably the biggest Comic-Con aside from the New York City Comic-Con on the East Coast this year. And I cherry pick what shows I do based on the audience and location. Philadelphia, I have shot 3 movies in Philadelphia over the years, and nobody has seen any of them. But Philadelphia is a good town. It's a terrible town to try to get around in and do business in because you can't park anywhere and not get from point A to point B without walking over homeless people. Anybody there will admit that. But it's a beautiful town, great town to do business in for those reasons. And I wouldn't miss Fan Expo. So I'll be at Philadelphia this weekend with, of course, a million people asking me, is this based on Philadelphia? But as they did last time. But I sell fairly decent there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still waiting to see if I have a panel. They haven't told me about that yet.
Well, you did see what Susan said about Philly fans. She goes, if you're in Philly, they'll destroy things, win or lose.
Yeah, they do.
And that's been a fact I remember that from back when the Phillies were playing, when the Sixers were playing.
Like that.
All of them. Every team. It's horrible.
That's just who they are. They just
And now it could just because they're tripping over homeless people.
Weird people.
But I remember going there to see the Liberty Bell and to go into the music hall downtown, the Opera House, for school. The only time I ever went was in like 76 or 77. I had a lot of stuff going on in 75 through 78. Learned a lot about different towns. And being from Baltimore, guess what? We hate everything in Pennsylvania.
Well, you try to, but I lived in Pennsylvania for a while, so I'm not. It's
a lot of people moved from the Baltimore area to Pennsylvania because of tax purposes.
Yeah, in the last coming near the end of the 70s, Baltimore used to have a population of over 1,300,000. Now the population is closer to just a little over 600,000.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Nobody wants to live in Baltimore City. And I guarantee even Baltimore County has lost a lot of people.
And while I was dating a girl in Dundalk, her dad worked at Sparrows Point, and they were just in the process of really gutting Sparrows Point, and that really sucked the life out of that area.
Oh, it did. A bunch of people I went to school with, their parents worked at Bethlehem Steel because I lived in Dundalk and Essex. So, it was part of...
Shut all that down.
Yeah. My best friend's father lost his job, and it took him years to find another job. But you're also looking at, this was during the gas crunch, back when Carter was president.
screwing things up.
Hey, you talk about your apocalyptical movies. That is a time when I can actually remember more people walking the roads and the streets and the rails than at any other time. And I'm talking whole families walking the roads because you either couldn't afford a car, couldn't put gas in a car, or whatever. Carpooling got huge.
Yeah.
Hitchhiking.
Oh, hitchhiking. Yep.
Yeah, that was a normal thing for.
Yeah, I hitchhiked.
A lot of people don't even know what it is.
Yeah, me and my friend, we hitchhiked from Churchville to Aberdeen and back. So that, not really that far, but we still did it. You know, it was a different time.
You went up the Pulaski Highway, right?
No, we did it from, oh shit, forgot what the name of that road was. I wasn't too far from Bel Air High School.
Oh, okay, 7.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the road at the time.
Road. Yeah, 1 of the 2, or US 1.
It was probably 7, but
yeah, it's Philadelphia Road. Philadelphia Road ran within 200 feet of my house.
So, but yeah, we lived all over the place out there. But I remember walking from where we lived in Hawthorne to the skate land in Essex, right there behind the Hess and the Friendlies.
East Point Mall?
No, not the East Point Mall one. The one in Essex. It was just by it was across the street from the library, the Baltimore County Library, where the white coffee pot was and all that other stuff. Montgomery Ward's was in that shopping center.
I'm trying to remember. It's not where Golden Ring is now.
No, I did walk to Golden Ring Mall a lot.
Yeah.
From Hawthorne to there. I mean, it's only 5 miles. So it wasn't that far. But you say that to kids today, I got to walk 5 miles?
I'm lying about a half.
Well, yeah. For everybody that's watching, that's from Baltimore, that's in Baltimore, from Baltimore, in order to write the book, I had to do what anybody will do when they're talking about hauntings, and that's research the history. And I researched the living heck out of that whole area in Baltimore County. You got to remember, Route 7, which is Philadelphia Road. That was called the Old Post Road back in colonial times, and about every historical figure you can imagine traveled that road, and it was a toll road. And so, because it was a toll road, they had all these these roads you see branching off to the side and all that, just get around the tolls, right. Just try to do today. And because they did that, they had to take ferries across the big rivers. And so that's where you have all these ferry landings in various places that don't exist anymore. But that's chock full of history. In the Gunpowder Falls area, there was an Indian tribe that ruled that section all the way up and down the Susquehanna, down to near where Patapsco is today, called the Susquehannocks. And what's interesting is that when Captain Cook arrived there, I think it's Cook, arrived there way back in the 1600s, he encountered a tribe that were like tall Europeans. They weren't like Indians at all. They were like tall Europeans, and for some reason they could speak English, which is extremely odd.
Could they be part of the Roanoke?
Yeah,
the people that they dropped off there?
Actually, they were at war with the Powhatans and the Roanoks. Their kingdom, their territory stretched all the way up the length of the Susquehanna to a little bit north of Harrisburg along the Susquehanna River. Mm-hmm. And they were an unusual tribe, and their history kind of fascinated me. But as advanced as a tribe as they were reported as being, and very friendly, they were practitioners of cannibalism. And so if you want to talk about the foundations for wickedness and evil and blah, 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 they actually practice cannibalism as a mainstay. And believe it or not, George Washington himself had to dispatch a regiment of troops during the Revolutionary War to put down the last remaining members of this tribe in Pennsylvania because they were trying to help the British. They actually wiped out the remainder of the Susquehannocks.
Our very first story of cannibalism from within our own country.
Many Indian tribes did dabble with cannibalism.
Well, they don't look at other. Some of these tribes didn't look at other tribes as people.
Right.
That they weren't equal, and that's a whole different story. And I don't want to get into that because that gets very political.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the history of that area is unusual. And that roller rink I was talking about was on right off of Eastern Avenue.
Okay,
that should help you.
Was it near Glen L. Martin?
Actually, where I walked from was where Glen L. Martin is.
Okay.
I had to go across Middle River Bridge and down the road past the Mars, and
it doesn't exist anymore. But the first home I lived in was in Bowley's Quarters, up and across, almost kind of up and across street from Glen L. Martin. But it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. Now the homes that I lived in still exist. They were government subsidized housing, back off of Hawthorne. You'd go down Hawthorne Road to down to it was Kingston Road around to Kingsway. So it was out on a little park back there. And all these houses were on the water. Not mine. We were inland a little bit. But yeah, it was a neat place to grow up. Everybody knew everybody. And did we have stuff going on there? Yeah, we had all kinds of crap going on there with spirits and other stuff, because it was all just so interesting back at the time. Well, back at that time, I was told not to talk about it, so I didn't. But I have memories of stuff happening all over the place out there. So walking over to, Golden Ring Mall, we had to go under the railroad tracks through that tunnel over there to get on that back road to get over there. Or we would walk from Kenwood, the high school. We would walk over there and then down. But
I had a mental condition. You see, I get so bored with walking. Everywhere I went, I made sure I plotted straight lines. I can't stand walking around things. So if I had to go from Edgewood to Parkville, I would plot a straight course from Edgewood to Parkville. And that includes walking through a hell of a lot of woods and properties. And I made a lot of people mad, but I cannot.
I didn't do that, but I got stories that I don't even share with myself anymore about every place I've walked. But yeah, back then we walked everywhere. If we didn't walk, we rode. But you couldn't ride a bike and carry roller skates, so you had to walk. So just saying. But you know what? We're at the end of our time. Where can everybody find Frank Bennett? Frank J. Bennett at that.
Author Frank J. Bennett at that. Well, listen, just type my full name into Google and about anything you want to know about me comes up. I'm not hard to find. And
use Copilot. I swear, guys, use Copilot. You'll find out all kinds of stuff about Frank.
I don't even know what that is. I'm on something.
I don't think you've looked at yourself up.
It's AI.
Well, I don't recommend this to many people because, you want to maintain a healthy lifestyle, but I don't go around Googling myself much.
Yeah. Well, again, if you guys read the lovely write-up I made.
Microsoft's crappy version of Google.
You've also got Gemini, which is
pretty much
Google's version of that.
Yeah.
Chat GPT, same kind of thing. So they're really pushing us for us to learn it at work. And that's right, Crystal.
That's
AI
true.
isn't
Only
always right. It's because I did a search on for a friend of mine about information on the Sally House, and half of what it brought back was wrong.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to.
You mean like Wikipedia?
Actually, I think Wikipedia gets it at least half right.
Could be. I don't know.
That's only
I don't look myself up online. I go online to check and see what I put up there looks right.
Yeah.
And
right.
the rest of it I don't pay attention to.
Right.
I've
That's the way it is.
never looked me up either.
Well, I wrote an AI program for work, and I was using myself as an example. I came up with all kinds of crap about me that I had no clue was out there. 25 different searches. It did 25 different searches and came up with all this stuff, and is like, can everybody see how I'm registered to vote? Yes, they can. Just keep that in mind, people. They can see how you're registered to vote, given the right information.
Well, I'm going to say this because I'm pretty sure people like Lee Majors are watching. I only vote Trump. There, you happy?
Oh, my grandkids only vote for Donald Trump.
When I met Lee Majors in Las Vegas, I got his T-shirt back here. He signed it for me. We started talking, and the first thing he wanted me to know, because I complimented on him for standing up to Hollywood bullying.
Good for him.
And the first thing he said to me was, I got invited down to Mar-a-Lago. And
did you ask him if he could bring a friend?
Yeah.
That wasn't him. Actually, I never met
You didn't even think of that, did you?
I didn't even think about that. If I had thought of that, it says, I'll go with you. I'll carry your golf clubs. Because, he's nuts about golfing.
Okay.
Because I asked him, did you play the links? Stuff like that. But, you don't get to spend much time talking to a celebrity of that caliber. But, yeah, dig it. They can find me just by typing my full name into Google. It's pretty much up to date. And, of course, it'll lead you to my webpage and Bible by Bennett and other pages like that. And, of course, on those pages is my tour schedule, which you will find relatively up to date.
And you can also search Frank J. Bennett on Amazon to find his books.
And, of course, come to Philadelphia this weekend, all you Baltimore folks. Come see me up there at Fan Expo. It's worth it because among the guests is William Shatner and a whole bunch of other celebrities. I mean, come on.
How old is he now?
93? 93 or 94? We'll have to get Tanya back on. She'll tell us.
Yeah, Tanya's interesting. Yeah. Yeah,
I like her.
If you want to, I could ask if she wants to do your show again.
Please do, because I really liked her. She made me smile so much. Any show. He's 94. So
Tanya's a sweetheart.
And same as
for people who don't know who we're talking about, there was an episode of Star Trek where Scotty is accused of killing a woman in a club, and the woman who's actually an exotic belly dancer is named Tanya Lemony, and she was a dancer in old choreography in Hollywood, and she's a friend of mine, and she has a story about being born and raised in Iran and coming to America. Yeah. She also has some paranormal stories too, and she's just a really cool person.
She is. She's very nice. And then I also really enjoyed Tammy.
Tammy Locke?
Yeah.
Actually, next, is it this weekend? I think it's this weekend. They're going to be at Happy Trails in Roanoke, Virginia.
Oh.
She's going to be with a bunch of other celebrities.
Old Western celebrities?
Say again?
Old Western celebrities, and she was on a Western type show?
Yeah, mostly Western related, yes. Yeah. I used to do that show, but it's changed venues, so it's not good for me anymore.
Well, yeah, I don't think you fit in well with Westerns. You're not really a John Wayne kind of guy.
No, but you know what's funny is that, and strange funny, the first time I did that show about 4 or 5 years back, I sold out.
Oh, wow.
You just never see it. I completely sold out. And I usually travel with about 20, 30 books for any given show. I sold out.
Well, I'm just glad you didn't come out here to that one in Mobile. they can't do it anymore because they have to rebuild the center. You know, when we had that snow, the building imploded.
In Mobile. Okay, you have me at a disadvantage. I don't know that one.
Yeah, you were going to go. You sent me a message and said that you were going to go to this event in Mobile. And
it didn't do very well.
It didn't do very well from what I understood. So I was so glad you didn't do that one.
Okay. It's coming back to me slowly. Let me tell you, a lot of promoters are not easy to deal with because the majority of them let you know you're doing a show 1 week before the event. And then all of a sudden you got to cancel whatever else you got going on and set up for it and go.
No, you can't do that. You got to be able to plan in advance.
Yeah, professional events let you know around about 30 days in advance so that you can book airfare and stuff like that.
Yeah, at least.
They should let you know sooner than that. But I'm going to thank you so much because we need to save some stuff to talk about on June 2nd when Frank comes back. So thank you, everyone, for joining us here on the Paranormal Pride. You can catch us in replay on Dark Realm TV on Roku and Amazon Fire. You can also catch us on Temple of Phoenix Rising Entertainment, Things Network, as Ron and I are Things of Florida. You can also catch us on Bill of Rights Network and Paranormal Pride on YouTube. And let's see, where else are we at? Oh, and the Denise Pridemore LinkedIn. So if you want to, just remember, that's mostly professional. Even though I'm not always professional, that one is. So thank you guys so much for listening in. Join us every Monday night at 7 p.m. Central. And then you can also join us on Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. Central for the Paranormal Nation Radio Not So Normal. And you can catch us all the places I've said. And I forgot to mention that we're also on BoRNTV on Rumble. So if you don't want to do the YouTube and you don't want to do the Facebook stuff, I totally get it. We are also on Rumble. So check that out, and we'd love to have you. As soon as I know who my guest is tomorrow night, I will share it with Ron and Carl, and you guys will all find out at the same time. So I'm working on it. So thank you guys, and have a great night. And I hope you all sleep tight. Good night.
Night.